You're joking, aren't you? It's the Teesside Chef. I've decided to jump on the Squid Game hype bandwagon and make this Korean Dalgona candy. And if you've been hiding under a rock and you've never heard of it, this is the candy they use in the hit Netflix show, a wafer-thin, honeycomb sweet treat that's used in the episode The Man with the Umbrella. And as you can see from the state of my kitchen after I made this, it's an absolute cinch to make and can be done in absolutely no time to dazzle your friends and dumbfound your enemies. So I started with 125 grams of caster sugar in a pan on a low heat because I thought I'd be dead clever and make a few of these with different indentations so I could enjoy a deadly game with my family. And as I waited patiently for the sugar to start melting, I had no idea what I was in for, just like all them annoying Squid Game contestants. So I happily prepared a piece of baking paper with plenty of oil, and I used some kitchen paper to spread this around. And I have to say that even though I've gone to all the trouble of making this here fascinating candy, I didn't really care for Squid Game, to be honest. I mean, it was alright, like. But I think in future, if I want a load of people in bad tracksuits to get on my nerves for 9 hours, I'll just go to the nearest street corner and have a bit of crack with the local chavs. And you want to have all your ducks in a row before you pour the hot sugar mix. And you're going to need something to flatten out the poured sugar mix when it eventually comes. And I have this handy press for this job, and I've oiled that generously too. And my sugar was just starting to melt there on the edges, so I went in with a spoon handle and stirred this up a bit and continued cooking until it all melted and I had liquid sugar. And you want to be really careful when you're doing this, because that sugar is hotter than the sun. And I've seen enough pain and suffering while watching Squid Game, so I would hate for yous to hurt yourselves. So please be careful and watch what you're doing. And don't forget to let me know what you thought about Squid Game in the comments. As far as I can tell, I'm the only person in the universe that isn't that into it. Oh yeah, and while you're here, you lot, subscribe, eh? Come on now. I'm about to completely ruin my self-esteem here doing this. That must be worth a sub, surely. Or at least a like. I mean, I might not come back from this disaster. But if you're daft enough to want to try and make this recipe here, just make sure that you don't have your heat too high with this sugar, because it will burn very easily. But only make it if you like making a massive mess and you like getting really, really frustrated. But to be honest, at this stage, I was still supremely confident as I put half a teaspoon of baking soda in here and stirred to incorporate. And I made sure that I knocked the heat down really low as the baking soda went in, because I knew that if you cooked it for too long, it would puff up too much and would be completely useless for this Dalgona candy. So again, if you've lost all leave of your senses and you want to have a go at this, make sure that you pour it just as the baking soda is fully incorporated. It should puff up a little bit, but not too much. And it should be a light golden colour like this with no darker streaks in it where the baking soda hasn't fully incorporated. And to be honest, I was hoping it would pour a lot easier than this and quicker. And a terrible sense of foreboding began to creep upon me for the first time while doing this recipe. And it sort of felt like I'd swum out to sea and didn't have the energy to get back to dry land, and it's not a good feeling, really. But I thought at the very least I'd go down kicking and screaming, and after allowing the mix to cool for 15 to 20 seconds, I went in and pressed down on the first dollop, and miraculously, I managed to get this one right. But in the increasing confusion that was now enveloping me in the kitchen, I had misplaced my star cutter that I was hoping to use for this one. So I just grabbed the nearest one I could find in an ever-increasing panic, which just happened to be a heart shape. And with the first one done quite nicely, I naively thought I was back on track here, but it didn't take long to come crashing back down to earth, because the second one stuck to the press, and I'd clearly missed my successful Dalgona candy pressing window. And even though I knew I was on a hiding to nothing, I persevered and tried a third one, but my hands were beginning to burn from the impossibly hot sugar, and I was almost certain that I wouldn't have a video for you this week at this juncture. So I went back to the relatively good one and made an indentation with a little stick to try and make it look authentic and salvage some pride at least. And I was so flustered by now that I didn't even check that the camera was properly focused for this close-up. But there it is for better or worse. And in conclusion, I think I'd rather be arbitrarily shot in the face at point-blank range by a masked man than make this Dalgona candy again. Dalgona candy from TV's Squid Game. What a sheer waste of time. I'll see you next week, eh? Ta-ra.